All right, Nick, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals fans probably disappointed about how the season went for the team. The team could have performed better in a lot of different ways. This should have been a playoff team. Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but this team could use some help overall, I think, in numerous different ways. And there's a report out there talking about one player in particular that would really help boost this team up. We'll get into that in just a second. But before that, I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. And Nick, as I alluded to, one player in particular could be the ticket for this Bengals team to put them over the edge next year. Let's get into the article and we talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, is from over on the Yard Barker. It says ESPN's Ben Solak dropped an interesting trade idea for the Bengals in a former top 5 draft pick. He thinks Cincinnati should go after Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts. Pitts hasn't quite lived up to his 1,000-yard 2021 rookie season over the past few campaigns. Said tight end Kyle Pitts is due to $10.8 million over the final year of his deal in 2025. Solak wrote, "Can the Falcons get more for him in a trade than they would in a compensatory pick after he leaves in free agency? I think they could, as he has a rosier future on an offense that actually fits his skill set. The Bengals definitely do. My prediction: Pitts will get dealt to the Bengals for a day 3 pick. That could be a nice flyer opportunity on Pitts' ceiling, especially if Cincinnati can't come to an agreement with T. Higgins. There are plenty of different routes that the front office can take over the next few months." And I think both of those last parts are the important part here, is getting him for a day 3 pick would be a nice flyer, a test for the Bengals to see if they can capitalize on a playmaker at the tight end position. And if they don't get T. Higgins, this could be a fix for that missing offensive weapon. I think these are really a great option for the Bengals. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but Bengals fans, in the comment section below, let us know your thoughts. Kyle Pitts on the Bengals. Is he the perfect fit? Is this the missing piece the Bengals have needed? Let us know in the comment section below your thoughts on this possibility for the Bengals. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest for the Bengals?
Yeah, there's a lot to really like about this trade opportunity here for Cincinnati. I think it's a great buy low opportunity, right? You always want to in any investment, whether it's in real estate, stocks, or trying to pick up a player to make your team better. You want to buy low as opposed to buying high. And Kyle Pitts right now is at a very low point, at least in his how people view him around the National Football League, but he still is a physical specimen, a phenomenal athlete. And look, to be totally honest, over the past 4 years or so, the Atlanta Falcons, if you look at their receiving core and tight end, to a man, they're basically a bunch of really talented guys that statistically underperform. Is it every single player on the Atlanta Falcons that's a skill player suddenly falls into that? Or maybe it's the infrastructure around there in Atlanta, quarterback, offensive play calling, just the franchise in general. It's really hard to tell there. There is a chance you get what I call a little bit of the Wes Welker effect. Welker, as people remember, was a phenomenal slot receiver for the New England Patriots and later for the Denver Broncos. But before that, his first 3 years in the NFL, Wes Welker had a combined total of 96 catches, right? Combined across 3 years. It was basically just kind of a special teams guy, nothing special. His first year with the Patriots, he caught 112 passes. He would have 100 receptions in 5 of the next 6 seasons. What happened? Did he suddenly just get better at football? No, he was in a bad franchise, bad environment that underutilized him for his athletic gifts. There's a really good chance Kyle Pitts falls into that Wes Welker effect. He goes to a team like the Bengals where he gets utilized more effectively. Because although he's a tight end positionally, he is an X factor. He can line up all over the field. He's a great physical specimen. He can win 50-50 balls, run after catch, stretch defenses vertically, horizontally. He can do it all. He just needs a system, a team, and more importantly, a great quarterback that can get him involved. And obviously, like the report highlighted, the Bengals wouldn't have to give up much for him. Give, fourth round pick, fifth round pick, something like that, just to take the salary cap hit off the Atlanta Falcons' hands. And there is the question with T. Higgins, and there's the question, well, what do they do to upgrade the defense? Look, at a certain point, the Bengals have to decide, do they double down and just become the best offensive firepower in all of the NFL, where they're just stacked everywhere and just rely on coaching and scrappiness and Trey Hendrickson to help the defense? Or do they go more balanced? I'm not necessarily against becoming the best offense in the NFL and score 550, 560 points over the course of a season. I understand you'd like to be a balanced team, but the reality is I'd rather have more great players around Joe Burrow than I would have great players around Chris Jenkins, right? Or Newton, the young corner, or Hendrickson, because Burrow is that good. He is just at an otherworldly level. I'd rather see the best player, I think the best quarterback in the NFL last season, have every possible weapon around them than try and build a balanced team. I think in this case, balance is a little overrated. Let's re-sign Higgins. Let's trade for Kyle Pitts, and let's load up on an offensive arsenal that no one can handle in the NFL. I know people want to see a defense do better than what happened in 2024, and it was really bad a lot of the time. But I tell you what, Joe Burrow, when you're playing at this high a level, if you give him even more weapons, if you bring back Higgins, if you do some fixes on the offensive line, I know it's not pretty, but you can win every game 40-30, and you can go all the way to the title. We've seen teams do this all the time. The Packers famously did it when they won their Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. This is not uncommon. I think there's a great chance this move could make a lot of sense for the Bengals. And I think what's all said and done, they probably pull this trade off.
Yeah, Nick, and I think when you look at Kyle Pitts, there's some precedent that he would do well with a team like the Bengals. You look in that first season in 2021 where he was so dynamic. He got that 1,000-yard season. What was the difference between this year and that year? Well, the amount of targets that he got in that system. 107 targets, 68 receptions there, opposed to 70 targets and 47 receptions this year. It just dropped off. Got 30 less targets, or 40 less targets pretty much this season by Atlanta. That's not great. You need a weapon. You need to feed the beast. You need to get him more targets. And you look at what the Bengals do. You look at a guy like Mike Gesicki. He's not nearly the athlete that a guy like Kyle Pitts is. But in the last 2 years, or when he was with New England and Miami, this is a guy whose his receptions and targets significantly dropped. 29 receptions, 34 receptions, respectively. You look in 2024 with the Bengals, 65 receptions for a guy like Gesicki at his best year in about 4 years with the Bengals. They know how to target the tight end position. They know how to utilize guys who are receiving threats. And I think Mike Gesicki, he doesn't hold a flame to Kyle Pitts as the ability of being a receiving threat. I think Kyle Pitts would be a perfect fit in this Bengals offense. And they, like they said, you got to have someone that can utilize Kyle Pitts better. This is a team that can utilize the tight end position better.
And one final point to end on, I think you hit on something very important there, is that Arthur Smith was the head coach at the Atlanta Falcons for most of Kyle Pitts' career, the early part of his career, and then became, of course, the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Arthur Smith, for whatever reason, does not target the tight end position nearly as much. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a pretty solid tight end. Bengals fans are very well with Pat Freiermuth, right? Good, solid player, not a superstar, but a good player. Freiermuth's first 3 seasons in the NFL, his first 2 seasons, he was healthy for pretty much the entire season. 79 targets, 98 targets, right? He played in 16 games both of those seasons. Last year, he played in all 17 games, and he only had 78 targets, right? So he actually had seen his targets go down significantly on a per game basis the moment Arthur Smith showed up in Pittsburgh, the former head coach of Kyle Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons. There's a chance that Arthur Smith just hates tight ends, and that really shunted Kyle Pitts' development. You get him in the right atmosphere in Cincinnati, like you alluded to, maybe he becomes a superstar. I think there's a really good chance this could do a lot for this Cincinnati Bengals offense. And again, if they can become this offensive arsenal that becomes an unstoppable force, we've seen it happen before. The 99 Rams, the Packers from a few years ago. You have elite level offenses, you can win titles. You don't need a balanced team. Defense wins championships is a cute saying, but it's not reality when it's all said and done. There's a really good chance the Bengals make this move, and it makes them much closer to a Super Bowl team.